the 2007 arrival of the iPhone, the Android, the Kindle have set the stage for the rise of populist politicians around the globe and the 2016 election of Donald Trump. The nation's explainer-in-chief, Thomas L. Friedman, the three-time Pulitzer Prize winner, New York Times foreign affairs columnist, the man who gave us The World is Flat, has a new bestseller. Thank You for Being Late, An Optimist's Guide to Thriving in the Age of Accelerations. Hey, Tom, it's great to have you here. And now I know from reading the book that we have the coffee house in common. What's the significance of you listening to Brandy Carlisle and talking about hurricanes?
Well, my book is about the world being reshaped by three giant accelerations in what I call the market, Mother Nature, and Moore's Law. So the market for me is digital globalization. If you put it on a graph, it looks like a hockey stick soaring up. Mother Nature is climate change, biodiversity loss, and population. And Moore's Law is technology. They're all accelerating at a vast pace that we've never really experienced before, Michael, at the same time. And Brandy Carlisle wrote a song, which I think is really the song of our time. It's called the I, E-Y-E. And its main refrain is, I wrapped your love around me like a chain, but I never was afraid that it would die. You can dance in a hurricane, but only if you're standing in the eye. And I think my three accelerations, they're like a hurricane. I think President Trump is selling a wall against the hurricane, as are leaders elsewhere around the world. I'm actually selling an eye. The eye is the healthy community where people can move with the storm, draw energy from it, but create a platform of dynamic stability within it, a healthy community where people can feel connected, protected, and respected. And I think the great struggle in our politics going forward is going to be between the wall people and the I people. And my book is really a manifesto for the I people.
I mean, I don't think you set out. As I read the book, I was thinking to myself, Tom Friedman didn't set out to explain the rise of populism necessarily. But what I took away from it is this, that, we all love the technological advances that make our lives easier, but it also brings about a great feeling of uncertainty. I mean, it's a hell of a fast ride for all of us, and some are unsettled. And politically speaking, Donald Trump and others, Marine Le Pen, and I could give Geert Wilders, others have been able to tap into the uncertainty that some are feeling about the world in which we live. How did I do with the thesis?
Well, you did really well. That's a perfect condensation of what I'm saying. One of my favorite quotes in the book, Michael, is from a congressman from Minnesota who talked about growing up in Minnesota, where I grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And he said back then, if you were basically a white male growing up in Minnesota, then you needed a plan to fail. You needed a plan to fail because there was so much updraft of blue-collar and white-collar work. My uncle worked as a loan officer in a bank in Minneapolis back then, and he only had a high school degree. And what happened, though, as a result of these accelerations is that the demands for every middle-class job got pulled up. So that thing that sustained the American middle class in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, which we called a high-wage middle-skill job, you could get high wages for middle skills, that got completely wiped out. And there's a lot of people today who are feeling the effects of that because now you need a plan to succeed. And as I explained in the book, you have to update it every 4 years.
Is it possible to harness, to channel that angst that comes from the pace of change for a positive purpose? And if so, what do we do with it?
Really good question. I think it's a challenge for the Democratic Party to acknowledge that angst and to affirm why people are feeling that way, but try to take it in a positive direction. And I have a chapter in the book called How We Turn AI into IA, how we turn artificial intelligence into intelligent assistance so more people can live at this higher pace of change. And the core idea there is really built around AT&T's Human Resources Department, is how everyone has to become a lifelong learner. So the days when you could sort of go to college for 4 years or 2 years and then dine out on that for 30 years, that body of knowledge, that's all over now. So if you want to be a lifelong employee at CNN, the New York Times, or General Motors, you now have to be a lifelong learner.
I'd be derelict in my duty if I didn't get Tom Friedman to react to the news of the day, which is a Twitter rant initiated by President Trump. Put up on the screen, Catherine, some of what the president's been up to this morning. Terrible, just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory, nothing found. This is McCarthyism. Just out, the same Russian ambassador that met Jeff Sessions visited the Obama White House 22 times, 4 times last year alone. Next, is it legal for a sitting president to be wiretapping a race for president prior to election, turned down by court earlier, a new low? And finally, I'll bet a good lawyer could make a great case out of the fact that President Obama was tapping my phones in October just prior to election. The audience that you're talking about in the book who are unsettled by the pace of change, does this somehow play into the concerns and the anxiety feelings that they have?
Oh, absolutely. What's so disturbing about it, I can't speak to whether the Obama administration tapped the President Trump during the campaign. I don't know what the facts are. But one reason I don't know the facts is because he hasn't presented them. He's made an allegation. He could have as easily woken up in Mar-a-Lago this morning and said, I just saw a UFO go over. And so what disturbs me about that is two things. One is that it's not only not presidential to make such a dramatic allegation that your predecessor tapped your phones during the campaign. That's not even adult behavior. If you're going to make that allegation, you come out with the head of the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, you say, here's the facts. You don't take it, as some people suspect, he took it out of a Breitbart story, which is harrowing. But the larger point for you as a citizen and me as a citizen is that in this age of acceleration, small errors in navigation can have huge consequences. It's like we're flying in a 747, and you, as the pilot, you enter one digit of data wrong in your navigation, you can now end up wildly off course really quickly, and the pain of getting back on course can be enormously challenging. And that's what worries me right now.
But if my head is filled with cynicism because I've lost my job and I'm blaming NAFTA and I think that Mexico now is manufacturing the goods that I should be, and along comes this simplistic explanation that says, well, Obama was tapping the Trump Tower, it makes it more palatable. It gives me something that I can point my finger in and say, yeah, damn it, that's the sort of thing that's going on today, right?
There's no question, but what people hunger for most, I think, Michael, and the reason actually I think they took a chance on Trump, is something, my friend Don Baer pointed this out to me the other day. He was a communications director for the Clinton administration. He said, people didn't really want change. They want help. And this is what I find in going out and talking to communities about my book. People are desperate for navigation. And yes, you can give them a sugar high by directing them here or there, feeding their anger. But at the end of the day, the solutions to this challenge of the American worker today, we got to get a million things right. And most of those things that we have to get right, and this is really the core of the book, actually are based in communities. If you ask me who's doing what, you want to be an optimist about America today, stand on your head. Because our country actually looks so much better from the bottom up than from the top down. We actually have a lot of communities getting it right. But it takes a really adaptive coalition, business, philanthropies, public schools, public leaders, to build these adaptive organisms. And this kind of quick fix, I'm going to build a wall, I'm going to go to carrier and pressure them to keep your jobs, that is not going to do it. Not when you're up against the forces of acceleration that we're up against.
If they ever bottle water from St. Louis Park, Minnesota, I'm buying it. I'm not going to tell people why. They'll have to buy the book to read it, but it's a pretty impressive list. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Mike. Really a treat to be with you.
The book is titled, Thank You for Being Late. Thomas L. Friedman is the author. So, what are you thinking via Twitter? Hit me with one. What do we got?